Dave Chappelle once said that the worst thing to call somebody is crazy. It is dismissive. These people are not crazy. They are strong people. Maybe their environment is sick. He was not talking about church, but he might as well have been. Because what I am about to tell you is not a story about crazy people doing crazy things. It is a story about a system, a structure, an environment so sick that it produces the same result over and over and over again. And the people inside that environment are not stupid. They are not weak. They are not gullible. They are strong people trapped in a machine that was designed from the ground up to protect the man at the top and silence everyone else. In the last 3 weeks, 3 separate megachurch pastors have been exposed. One was suspended for allegedly whipping a congregant in the crotch with a riding crop. One is at the center of multiple sexual abuse allegations that the church leadership covered up and turned into a feel-good story in a published book. One stepped down after being accused of sexually abusing a teenage girl. And while all of this was happening, a 4th pastor, one who was already exposed years ago for rape allegations, announced he is launching a brand new church to do it all over again. 3 weeks, 3 pastors, 3 churches. Exposed. And the church did nothing, not the individual churches. The church, the institution, the system, the machine. This is that story. Let's start with the most recent case because it's the one that tells you everything you need to know about how these institutions operate. Brian Tome, senior pastor of Crossroads Church. If you've never heard of Crossroads, that's by design. Megachurches don't want outsiders paying attention. They want insiders paying tithes. Crossroads. Church is one of the largest churches in America. We're talking tens of thousands of people across multiple locations. Brian Tome was their leader, their spiritual authority, the man who stood on stage every Sunday and told people how to live, how to love, how to be moral, how to follow God. On March 2nd, 2026, the church's co-founder and board chairman, Brian Wells, announced that Tome had been suspended from all pastoral duties, pending an independent investigation. The reason, an allegation that Tome whipped a congregant in the crotch with a riding crop. Now I need you to sit with that sentence for a second. A pastor whipped a member of his congregation in the crotch with a riding crop, inside what is supposed to be a house of God. The church described it in a letter to members as inappropriate physical humor. Inappropriate physical humor, that's what they called it. Not assault, not abuse, not a violation of every boundary a spiritual leader is supposed to maintain. Inappropriate physical humor, like he told a bad joke at a dinner party. Here's where it gets worse. This incident allegedly happened in 2015. A full decade ago, a member of the congregation reported it to a Crossroads staff member in 2024. That means someone on staff knew about this for at least a year before any action was taken. And the only reason action was taken now is because it became public. Not because the church investigated, not because the leadership took it seriously when they first heard, but because they couldn't hide it anymore. Tome himself released a pre-recorded message to the congregation. He said, "It's not fun, it's not comfortable, it's not something I want to do, but I'm in and I'm going along with it." He said he welcomed the independent investigation. And then he said something that should send a chill down your spine. He said, "We say at staff every day, hey, it's a great day to die." That's the culture. That's the environment. A church where the staff motto is, "It's a great day to die." And the pastor thinks whipping someone in the crotch is humor. And nobody said anything for 10 years. Dave Chappelle was right. The environment is sick. If this is the kind of content that makes you think, that holds powerful institutions accountable, that says what nobody else will say, I need you to do something for me right now. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, and leave a comment telling me this. Have you ever witnessed something wrong in a church and stayed silent because you were afraid of what would happen if you spoke up? That conversation matters, and that engagement is how this channel grows. Now let's move to case number 2 because it's even darker. Bethel Church, Redding, California. If Crossroads is big, Bethel is a phenomenon. It is one of the most influential charismatic megachurches in the world. It is the epicenter of what is called the New Apostolic Reformation, a movement that claims modern-day apostles and prophets have the same authority as biblical figures. Bethel's leaders do more than preach. They prophesy. They claim direct communication with God. They claim the power to heal the sick and raise the dead. Their worship music is played in churches across every continent. Their school of ministry attracts thousands of students from around the world. They are a global brand built on the idea that God speaks directly through their leaders. And multiple women say those leaders use that spiritual authority to abuse them. The first allegations involve a man named Bob Hartley. Hartley was described as a core prophet at Bethel and was also previously connected to the International House of Prayer in Kansas City. Multiple women have come forward saying Hartley used his position as a spiritual authority to sexually abuse them. He was not some random volunteer. He was a prophet, a man who claimed to speak for God, and he used that claim to prey on women who believed him. Then a second set of allegations surfaced. A pastor named Ben Armstrong, who served as Bethel's overseer of prophetic ministry, was placed on administrative leave after a woman released a video alleging that he sexually harassed her multiple times in 2009 while he was serving as her mentor. She was under his spiritual care. He was supposed to be guiding her closer to God. Instead, according to her testimony, he was using that access to harass her. And the church knew. According to their own statement, they were aware of what they called a moral failure in 2009. Their response was to temporarily remove Armstrong from ministry and then restore him through what they called a repentance process. That is church language for we handled it internally. Nobody outside these walls needs to know. And we will put him back in position once we decide he is sorry enough. But it gets worse. After those allegations became public, even more allegations emerged. Another pastor at Bethel allegedly sexually assaulted an intern who was also working as a nanny for his children. When the church's leadership found out about the assault, they did not report it to the police. They did not protect the victim. They did not hold the pastor publicly accountable. Instead, they covered up the incident, and then they did something that should make your stomach turn. They took that story, the story of a young woman being assaulted by the man she worked for and trusted, and they turned it into a feel-good narrative about God's mercy and reconciliation in a published book. The book Unpunishable by Danny Silk was released in 2019. They took a sexual assault, wrapped it in the language of forgiveness, published it as an inspirational story, and they sold it. This is what happens when a religious institution has no external oversight, no democratic governance, no accountability to anyone outside its own walls. Bethel Church operates under a structure where one or two self-appointed apostles hold all decision-making power. The congregation does not vote. There is no denominational oversight. There is no board of independent directors. There is Bill Johnson and Chris Vallotton, two men at the top, and everyone else is beneath them. Sexual abuse experts have consistently identified this exact power structure, concentrated authority in the hands of charismatic male leaders with no external checks, as the single biggest red flag for institutional abuse. Dave Chappelle has talked about this dynamic in a different context. He has talked about how systems create environments where the people inside them cannot see what is happening because the system is their reality. The congregation at Bethel does not see abuse. They see spiritual warfare. They see moral failure and redemption. They see God testing his people, because that's what the system teaches them to see. The environment isn't just sick. It's designed to make you think the sickness is holiness. Now let us move to the third case. Rod Loy, senior pastor of First Assembly of God in North Little Rock, Arkansas. This is a 16,000-member, multi-site megachurch, the third largest Assemblies of God church in the entire country. Loy was not just a local pastor. He held a national leadership role as an executive presbyter in the Assemblies of God denomination. That means he had authority over other churches, other pastors, other ministries. He was one of the people at the top of one of the largest Pentecostal denominations in the world. He took a leave of absence after allegations surfaced that he sexually abused a girl when she was 16 years old. 16, a child, under the spiritual authority of a man who led 16,000 people and held national denominational power. I do not need to add commentary to that. The facts speak. A man entrusted with the spiritual guidance of 16,000 people, a man given authority over other pastors and churches, stands accused of abusing a child. And the system that elevated him, that gave him that power, that put a teenager within his reach, is the same system that elevated Brian Tome and the leaders at Bethel and every other megachurch pastor who has ever been exposed. Like this video. Share it with someone who goes to a megachurch. Share it with someone who gives money to a church that has one pastor at the top and no accountability beneath them. Leave a comment telling me what you think it would take for people to finally walk away from these institutions. Every like and share pushes this into the algorithm. Now let me tell you about the one that might be the most infuriating of all. His name is Micah Carter. He is a former megachurch pastor. He was accused of rape by a former church secretary. He denies the allegations. There is an ongoing defamation lawsuit and appeal. He has not been cleared. The allegations have not been resolved. And he just announced that he is planting a brand new church in Indianapolis in the fall of 2026. His announcement said, "It is time to build something beautiful with these broken pieces. Something beautiful with these broken pieces." A man accused of rape is using the language of redemption to launch a new ministry. And it is going to work. Because this is what the system does. This is the playbook. Here's how the playbook works. A pastor is accused. He steps down or is removed. He enters what the church world calls a restoration process. This is an internal, unregulated, invisible process where other pastors decide when the accused person is ready to lead again. There are no standardized criteria. There is no victim input. There is no external oversight. There is no licensed therapist making the call. It is pastors restoring pastors. Fox is guarding the henhouse. Carter was previously given a position at Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama, a megachurch with 43,000 members and the flagship of the Association of Related Churches network. Their founding pastor, Chris Hodges, put Carter on staff and allowed him to preach at one of their campuses. This was after the allegations were known within leadership circles. Hodges has a 20-step restoration process that he uses to bring fallen pastors back into ministry. Nobody outside the church knows what those 20 steps are. Nobody outside the church gets to evaluate whether they are sufficient. Nobody outside the church has any say in whether a man accused of rape should be put back in front of a congregation. Carter's time at Church of the Highlands ended only after the victim wrote a letter directly to Hodges. Not because the system caught the problem, because the victim had to intervene a second time to protect other people from the man who allegedly attacked her. And now Carter is starting his own church from scratch, with a new congregation that may never hear about the allegations, with new members who will be told he is a redeemed man of God, with a fresh start that the system made possible. This isn't one bad pastor. This is a machine that produces bad pastors, protects them when they are caught, recycles them when the controversy dies down, and blames the victims for not forgiving fast enough. Dave Chappelle has talked about what happens when institutions get so powerful that they become immune to accountability. He's talked about how the entertainment industry, the government, the police, every system with concentrated power eventually starts protecting the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. He's made the point that the problem is never one person. It's always the structure that put that person in power and kept them there after everyone knew. That's the megachurch. That's the structure. One charismatic man at the top. A congregation trained to obey spiritual authority without question. A financial model that depends on the pastor's personal brand. A theological framework that treats doubt as sin, questions as rebellion, and leaving as betrayal. A restoration industry that recycles abusers back into leadership. And a culture that treats every scandal as an isolated incident rather than a systemic failure. How many pastors have to be exposed before people recognize the pattern? Not 1, not 3, not 30. We've had hundreds. Every year, new names, new churches, new victims, new cover-ups. And every single time, the response from the broader church world is the same. That's not us, that's one bad apple. Our pastor is different, our church is different. But the structure is the same. The concentrated power is the same. The lack of accountability is the same. The financial incentives are the same. The theological cover is the same. If a secular corporation had 3 executives exposed for abuse in 3 weeks, there would be congressional hearings, there would be regulatory investigations, there would be calls for structural reform. But when 3 churches produce 3 abusers in 3 weeks, the church asks for prayers, launches an internal investigation, and tells the congregation to trust God's process. The environment is sick. Dave Chappelle said it better than any theologian ever could. These people aren't crazy. They're strong people. Maybe their environment is sick, and until the environment changes, until the structure is dismantled, until congregations demand transparency, accountability, and external oversight, the same headline will keep appearing. Different names, different cities, same story, same machine, same silence. Brian Tome, Bob Hartley, Ben Armstrong, Rod Loy, Mike and Carter. Those are just the names from the last 3 weeks. There will be more next month, and the month after that, and the one after that. Because the system that produced them is still running. Nobody turned it off, nobody shut it down, and nobody in the church is even trying. If you believe that spiritual authority should come with accountability, if you believe that churches should be held to at least the same standards as any secular organization, if you believe that the pattern is the proof, then subscribe to this channel right now. Turn on the bell, share this video with everyone you know who still puts their trust in a system that has proven over and over that it does not deserve it. Because this isn't about 3 pastors. This is about 3,000. And the next one is already leading a church near you. Reason over rituals. Always.